You know, when you learn the secrets to hitting your irons flush, it becomes really easy. You look forward to hitting that mid-iron out of the fairway because you know you're going to hit a good one, and most of your playing partners are going to struggle hitting those shots. Now, I've put together 3 of my all-time best videos that are going to share with you some of those real secrets to hitting crisp irons. Let's go ahead and get started. There we go. Nice little draw there. Hit that one about as good as I can hit it. What is a good, solid, straight golf shot? It really just comes down to 3 things. We got to have a weight shift, so we got to get that weight starting to the left. If our weight shift is off, the body and the arms aren't synced up, there's no way you're going to be consistent. Number 2, I have to get it in the slot. I have to get it from the inside. If I'm starting down steep, no way to make it happen. I have to get that weight shift and get that club shallowing out, so now that it's on a plane, that I can swing very uniformly down through the shot, hit it very consistent that way. And then finally, I have to release the face. When I come down, I can't be holding this face off like this. I can't be trying to guide the club down the target line, or there's just no consistency. I have to be able to release this club the right way so that the face turns on over, and ideally, you can get a really, really straight shot or a nice little tight draw, which is what most players like to play. So let's go over each of those. There's a very intuitive way of doing each one. Now, I've got a little squishy ball here. You can do anything. You could put a rolled up towel. You could use a tennis ball, whatever you want. This one just kind of squishes a little bit. It's got a nice feel. You can really feel the weight shift there. Now I'm gonna give you a very intuitive drill to get that weight shift to the left. Well, when I start my downswing, this is the key. I don't really mind too much what your backswing is like. Everybody has a little different fingerprint, a little different style in the backswing. There's tons of players in the PGA Tour that have very different backswings, have a great downswing. What I care about and what really matters is that as you start that downswing, I want a little bump with your weight. I want that weight to be going to the left, and you're gonna feel like you're opening your body as you're doing that. So if I was gonna make a baseball swing here, and I had the bat a little vertical like this, as I start my bump to the left in golf, I get a little weight shift. As I do that, my body starts to open up. So you see how my knees pivot? This right knee goes forward to the target, left knee kind of goes back out of the way. As that's happening, that's going to get the momentum moving to the left. You'll see my belt buckle goes from here and starts to open up, turn toward the target. My hands and my shoulders start to move toward the target a little bit, but watch what happens to the shaft of this, what would be a bat or a golf club in this sense, is as I start to do that, it shallows out a little bit. Now, when I press into this golf ball or this squishy ball, tennis ball, rolled up towel, whatever you want to use, I can automatically feel that happening. So I'm doing that same move, and for me, I'm pushing that into the ground. That's ensuring that as I'm starting my downswing, that's a really intuitive way to feel the weight shift. Again, I don't mind if you set up a little this way, a little bit that way. As long as you do this move right, you get that little weight shift to the left, opening the body, shallowing out the shaft of the club. That's the piece that matters. Now, as you're doing that, let's actually just build on this. I'll leave this here. Let me put just a rubber ball. Again, this is like a little dollar store golf or dollar store squishy ball. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the logo on this so that you can see it here in a second, kind of facing in front of my elbows. So if I was to grip this ball between my elbows and now take this club, what I'd be doing is I start that little shift is I'd be pointing that logo toward the camera or more toward the target. So as you see here, get this where I can get lined up here. As I start to shallow that club out, look how you can start to see that logo. So with my left elbow, I go more toward the target that way. Imagine if I had a hammer or something in my left arm. I wouldn't hit it like this with my elbow pointing down to the ground. That wouldn't be powerful. I'd want to get that elbow out, pointing toward there, and then bam, I could really get some power with it. Same thing with my right arm. Imagine again, this is an axe, and I'm trying to chop a hole in this wall. I'm going to have that elbow tucked in. It's pointing toward the wall, and then I could hammer the heck out of that wall. No problem at all punching a hole in it. That's the same thing that you're going to feel when you're doing this. So again, I'm going to put this between my elbows, and notice how as I start that downswing move, I get that little bump to the left. Now my elbows go to the target. Well, the only difference in what we're doing here in a golf swing, let me lose the red ball, I'll put this back under my foot again, is that in a golf swing, I'm just tilted forward. So I'm talking about swinging flat with the ground, tilt everything forward. Let's do that same move. That's that little bump, shift to the left, getting that club shot out. If I'm looking at it from this direction, again, very intuitive. Here's that little bump, shift to the left, the club shallows in, it gets from the inside. Now, you get the shift down, we get the elbows coming in to drop that club in the slot. Now it makes a ton of sense how I can get that club coming in from there and feel very powerful, just like if I was gonna hit into this wall that way. The last piece now is releasing the club face. What almost everybody does when they do this move is they get in a great position, very athletic, very powerful. I'm getting my bump, I'm getting the lag, I'm making it much like a golf swing here, but the face is wide open and it's held off. Let's get your grip right to make sure that you can release the club properly. What I want you to do is go ahead and let your left hand hang down to your side and make a cup, a U with your fingers like this. So imagine you're holding something and you just curl up your fingers like that. I want my golf club to set in that angle. So it's going to be in my fingers. I'm getting it very much in my fingers there. If I was to open up my hand, it would look like that, across the grip. Now when I get that little stronger grip, the V in my thumb is going to be pointed more to the right. I'm in a very powerful position to where now, once I get that lag, I can go ahead and release that hand. So if I'm coming towards you, the logo of my glove is now rotating so that it shows the glove logo to you. What I don't want to do is I don't want to get that little weight shift bump, logos out, and then drag it all the way on around. I want to get that little bump, I'm in the slot, and from there, I have my hands in a way that I can present that logo down the fairway, and that's going to make it very intuitive. Another way of feeling this, not everybody's good with their left hand. Another way of feeling this is with the right hand. I get my little bump in the slot here, and instead of leaving the right hand where I'm going to present the golf ball up to the sky like that, I'm going to turn my hand sideways, I'm going to rotate it so that now my palm is facing the target. So if I was going to make a little swing with just my right hand, I get the bump to shallow it out, and then from there, I have the palm toward the target. I don't have the palm toward the sky. That's the same thing with my left hand. The same deal with the logo of the glove on the left hand. That's the same motion. So as my logo turns toward the target, my palm turns toward the target also. Now, finally there, we're going to put that together, and that's a really great move. Here's everything together. We're going to get a little weight shift, so let's start vertical. I get my little weight shift and my body opens. My elbows go to the target as I do that. And then as I rotate forward, I turn those hands and wrists to make that happen. I have to have my grip right. I have to have my grip in the fingers of my right hand too. I don't want it way up here in the palm or I won't be able to do that motion. But once I get that, now as I do a little bump, I turn to contact and my face is squared up. From there, all I'm doing is just tilting it down toward the ground. The same little athletic move, and now you can release that club. It just feels really good. It feels like it's a no-brainer. You're going to be able to hit some great shots doing that. Let's go ahead and give another one a whirl here. There we go. Another straight shot, felt really good.
Early extension. This is a huge killer of a lot of golf swings. This is when our hips move toward the golf ball coming into impact, which forces us to have to flip the club to get to the ball, and we just lose a lot of compression when we do that. So how do we eliminate this? I have a great 7-day plan that's going to allow you to get rid of this early extension for good. So first, let's understand a couple of terms. One is bend. Bend, just to think of it simply, is just making the angle between your upper body and your lower body smaller. So this would be bend. Extend would be the opposite, where we're making the angle between the upper body and the lower body bigger. So this is what's happening in the golf swing. We are bending at address, and I tweaked my back yesterday, so I'm not going to be making any swings. So throughout this video, I'll be showing some slow motion footage of Ballard's swing. He's the founder of Totsby Golf, fantastic golf swing. And you'll be able to see a lot of the things that I'm talking about here. So at address, we have some forward bend, a little bit of forward bend. Now, as we go up to the top of the swing, we're actually extending a little bit. A lot of people don't realize this because our shoulders are turning and tilting, but we're actually extending a little bit as we go up to the top of the swing. So if you imagine if we didn't extend at all to the top of the swing, our backswing would look like this, right? And that'd be no good. And we also don't want to extend too much because then our backswing would look like this. And that would lead to a whole nother host of issues. So if we're keeping our head fairly steady, then we're going to have a good amount of extension as we go up to the top, as we're staying in our posture there. Now, on the start of the downswing, we actually have some bend. This is where most people go wrong. They extend up to the top of the swing, and then they continue to extend in the start of the downswing. A lot of times this feels really powerful, but in reality, what we're doing is we're just throwing that club early, right? We're trying to get power at the wrong time. We want to get power really through impact, and the way that we do that is to bend initially in the start of the downswing, reduce that angle between the upper body and the lower body, and then extend through impact. That's how we really get that power. That's how you see the tour players, you know, they're covering the ball, they're getting that compression, and they're getting that effortless power that we all see. So how do we get rid of this? Well, I got a 7-day plan for you, like I mentioned. So day one, what we're going to do is we're going to put a club across the shoulders here, and you can do this at home. A lot of this 7-day plan, it's 15 minutes, you can do at home before you even go to the range. I think it's always great to get in some home reps because it just makes it easier. You're not wasting so much time on the range, you know, buying all these balls and not getting anywhere. You get in the work in at home and then go to the range, and you're going to get a lot more done if you do that. So the first thing we're going to do is at home. So at home here, what I want you to do initially here, day one, 15 minutes, put the club across your shoulders here. And I apologize if this is hitting the mic, but we're going to put our club across the shoulders here, a little bit of forward bend at address. And then as we go up to the top, we're going to extend a little bit, and we're going to keep our head nice and steady. As long as you are keeping this club tilted down and keeping your head steady, you're going to be extending the right amount. If your head moves a lot off of the ball and your shoulders get level, or your head moves kind of toward the target and our shoulders kind of get angled down a little bit too much sometimes, then we're extending too much. So if we keep our head steady and keep those shoulders kind of tilting down a little bit on the other side of the golf ball, you're going to be in that good position. So we're going to go up to the top and we're going to pause. Now we're going to come down in the start of the downswing here, and we're going to bend into the ground. So I want you to really exaggerate this. I want you to try to make this angle between your upper body and your lower body, I want you to feel like it's 90 degrees. Now that's not really as much as what happens in the golf swing, but I want you to feel that because I want you to feel almost like you can't exaggerate this too much. If you're someone who goes like this, you can't exaggerate that too much. In reality, if you do, which is probably not going to happen, but if you do, once you get toward the end of this, if you're actually overdoing it, you can always ease off of it. It's so much easier to overdo something than ease off of it than to try to do something little by little by little. I would try to really, really exaggerate it. It's really going to move the needle with your improvement a lot faster. So when we're coming down here, I really want you to bend down and get those hips back to square. Now what you're going to notice here is that my shoulders are still pretty closed off. You know, this would be, you know, this point in the golf swing. So my shoulders are still closed off. You're going to have that club kind of angled down a little bit in front of the golf ball. And then from here, you're going to extend up and through. Now, when you extend up and through, what we want to make sure that we do is we keep this end of the club, this butt end of the club, or the front end of the club, I guess, pointing down toward the ground, pointing down toward the golf ball. You want to almost feel like your shoulders are turning like a Ferris wheel. If you look at the slow motion video of Clay's swing, you're going to see how Clay's shoulders are staying a little bit steep as they're coming through. They're actually steeper than they were at the top of the swing. And this is a trait that you're going to see in almost every single tour player. So that's what we want to feel like. Now, the shoulders aren't really turning like a Ferris wheel vertically like that, but again, this is something that you're probably going to need to feel to get closer to where you want to be with it. So really feel like you're keeping those shoulders angled down. What we don't want to do is come in here and pause and then just kind of stand up and extend. That's not what we want to do. We want to extend and have those shoulders kind of angling down a little bit. So like I said, tweaked my back a little bit, so I'm not doing that as well as I should, but I think you get the idea looking at Clay's slow-mo video there. So that's day one, 15 minutes before bed, when you wake up, when the news is on, whenever you want, get that 15 minutes in, or more if you want to, but really you just need to take 15 minutes with it. Now day two, what we're going to do is we're going to take the pauses out of there, and we're just going to do some really slow, fluid reps, all right? So really, really slow initially here, and we're going to go up to the top, nice and slow. We're going to bend down and extend up and through. I want you to take, on the first one, I want you to feel like you're taking like 10 seconds to do it. That's how slow you want to go. And then as you get better with it, try to work it up a little bit faster, a little bit faster, a little bit faster, and try to get to where you can at least do it at 50% speed, somewhere in that area. So that's day two, 15 minutes, just adding some fluidity to it. trying to build up the speed. Day 3 is where we're going to try and work this up to full speed. Again, we're at home. You don't have to go to the range. You can do this in the office, wherever you want, wherever you got a little bit of space. And you're just going to go up the top and try to start off where you left off the day before and try to work up to getting to full speed with it, getting those proper motions. And really what you have to remember is bend at address, extend a little bit at the top, bend in the downswing, and extend through impact, and keeping those shoulders kind of tilted down throughout, head steady. You're going to do really, really well with this. So now, once we're up to full speed on day 3, getting these nice club across the shoulder swings in, now we're ready to get the club in the hands and try to do the same thing. And we're going to start with the pauses again. And again, you can do this at home. If you have some space, do it in the backyard. If you have some space in your garage, you don't have to go to the range to do this. You can work on this at home. So again, another 15 minutes. Let's get the club in the hands now. A little bit of bend at address. We're going to keep our head steady, tilt our shoulders down, and get a little bit of extension at the top. And then we're going to really bend down, right? So this is that hips back to square, really bending into the ground here. And then we're going to extend up and through, coming through just like that. So go nice and slow with it, do it with the pauses, 15 minutes. That's day 4, right? Day 5, just like we did in day 2 with the club across the shoulders, now let's add some fluidity to it. So I want you to take literally what would be almost like a 10-second swing initially, doing this movement with no pauses. So you can start out with a couple pausing ones, but we want to work toward where we're getting at least 50% in a fluid swing. So we're going to go up to the top here. We're going to go nice and slow. We're going to bend down and extend through. And I really want you to kind of brush the turf. I didn't do a good job there of brushing the turf, but I want you to try to brush the turf. Imagine where the golf ball would be. Imagine impact as you're doing this. So try to work up to 50% on day 5, doing the nice fluid swings. Day 6, you probably guessed it, right? We're going to try to work up with these practice swings, work all the way up to full speed doing these practice swings. So start out at 50% where you left off the day before, and again, just kind of work through. You can do some pausing ones, some slow ones initially, but we want to work through up on day 6. We want to work up to getting up to basically full speed where we're staying in our posture. And as you're doing this, I want you to imagine that you are really exaggerating it. And I want you to imagine what's going on at impact. I want you to hear the sound of the golf ball, see the ball flight. I want you to imagine how it's going to feel when you hit it, how the divot's going to fly. I want you to kind of imagine these things. It may sound silly to do that, but it really goes a long way in your improvement and being able to take this to the range. So that's what day 7 is. Day 7 is you've done your work at home, you've done your 15 minutes a day for 6 days, so hour and a half or so. And again, that's 15 minutes is just a suggestion. You can do more than that, but that's what you want to do to work up to there. Get all your work in at home so that way when you go to the range, it's much, much easier. So now you're at the range and you have an idea of what you need to do. Now, what I don't want you to do is just start hitting balls right away and expect it to click right away. What I want you to do is I want you to do a practice swing where you're getting it first, and then right after that, step up to the golf ball. So I'm going to get warmed up on the range here. I'm going to get ready to go. And now I'm going to try and do my swings. I'm going to start out with probably like a 50% swing where I'm making sure that I'm getting in my right positions here. I'm bending and extending, and everything looks good. And then I'm going to work up to full speed. And once I get a full speed one, I know it's good. If a golf ball was there, I know it would have been a good strike. I'm going to step into the golf ball, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm not going to change anything at all. And don't be afraid of what happens with your contact. That first one, it might be a disaster. You might shank it. I hate to say that, but you might chunk it. Something bad may happen. That's okay. Don't be afraid of that. It's the first one that you've tried after doing these drills. Your body doesn't quite know how to move this way and hit the golf ball yet, but you just have to work through it. So let's say on the first one here, I come in and I feel like I do everything. I stay in my posture and I chunk the ball, right? I hit behind the ball 6 inches. That's okay. Well, on the next one, I'm just going to try and do better than that. I'm going to imagine, all right, so on the last one I chunked it, I'm going to feel like I'm hitting more in front of the golf ball now. I'm going to imagine that divot in front of the golf ball. So I'm going to make sure I get another good practice swing again, and then I'm going to step into the golf ball, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. You just got to keep working through the adjustments. This is how you work through improving things in your swing. So do that 7-day plan, and I'm telling you, you're going to eliminate your early extension for good.
All great players pull the club, and players that really struggle push the club. Now let me give you an example of this. What I usually see with players, when they start their downswing, that right elbow starts to pop out. They start to push the club with the right hand, pushing it this way, pushing it with the right shoulder. That causes that club to get steeper in the downswing. And then from there, we're pushing it all the way through contact. We're looking from face on. We're trying to accelerate this thing by pushing it through toward the target. Now, that's not a very efficient way to make it happen. And if you do that, you're going to get that club steep and then stand up out of the shot, flip, so that you don't have very much lag, you're casting it, all those problems that just drive us nuts. Well, here's what's going on. If I take this club and it's lagging behind, so the club's head is over here, I'm going to pull straight up on the shaft, and that club is going to shoot forward like that. Now, if I took the club and put it the other way and I pulled up on it, it would shoot backwards. So both times I'm pulling up, the club is shooting in different directions based on where the club is and if I'm pushing versus pulling. So in the golf swing, what I see a lot of players doing is instead of pulling up and leading the way, letting this club kind of whip through there, what they're trying to do is get the club in front of their hands and push the club through there. Not very efficient. It's almost like I'm flipping and I'm pushing the head through contact, which is why most golfers don't have very much lag and very much forward shaft lane. So long story short, let me go ahead and show you the right way to do this. Now if you imagine again on that example where I'm pulling up, when I'm pulling in this direction, that club is kicking to want to line up with the direction that I'm pulling. Now in the golf swing, that's lag. So if I'm here with a bunch of lag, I'm kind of pulling down in this direction. And I'm constantly pulling slightly in front of the golf club, so it's constantly wanting to whip forward to accelerate the club. As I come down farther in the swing, now I'm clearing my body out of the way, so here I can pull up in this direction. And really what makes a big difference there is my left hip and my left shoulder are coming up and out. My right hand is feeling like it's pulling here, so it's actually pulling up on the grip this direction, going that way as I'm coming through contact. So I'm not hitting or pushing down. I'm actually got some lag and I'm pulling this grip back up with my right hand to get the club to whip on through there. So what I want you to do to feel this is just swing the club 4 or 5 times with just your right hand and feel like you pull up on the club just right as it's lagging behind there, and it's going to want to kick forward like that. It's going to whip through contact like that. That's that snap that you want to have at impact. Now I'm going to make my downswing, and I want to feel the same thing. I'm going to feel that same club wanting to whip through there, and I have to move my body a little open, get the club kind of lagging behind to make that happen. You're almost going to want to feel like this club, as you do that, it just kind of flies away from your body. It's being pulled out away from you. You get great extension through the shot when that happens. And that's what you want to feel like if you're going to be consistent. That's the only way to really be consistent in golf. So let's hit one like that, and we're going to see, I'm going to swing really smooth, and let's see what kind of club head speed I get. So I'm not going to feel like I go at it hard. I'm going to be really smooth, but I'm going to get that same feeling. That club just whips through contact because I'm pulling on it rather than trying to push the golf club toward the golf ball. There we go. Nice little draw. Felt like I barely swung at all, 196 yards with that 6-iron. So pretty daggone good there. Now, that whipping action is what allows you to be consistent. If I'm pushing, there's no whipping action. I'm having to steer and guide the club head. The cool thing about this, I can do the exact same thing, except I can go ahead and do down the line. So when I'm looking at this, it's going to also help me to get that draw. That exact same idea. So when we're looking from this angle, imagine that club is inside my hands, shallowed out. Now as I pull my hands, it's wanting to kick out toward the golf ball. As I come in here, my hands start to work back up and to the left as my body opens up, my hips, my shoulders open up, my hands go back that way. So you imagine my hands are kind of on this plane of glass, and I'm getting my hands working back up that plane of glass as the club is working down it. So even though the club is swinging from the inside and swinging inside out, the hands are working back up and in. And that's so confusing because most players, when they try to hit out more, they have to push it. So I'm trying to push the club out, and my hands are still working out. That's not going to be very consistent. I want to pull my hands in and have the club work out. So I'm basically doing this. I'm getting the club to the inside. I'm opening and letting that club shoot from the inside. So you'll notice my hands start to work back up and in slightly as that club still works down and out. That's really consistent. If I try to push my hands that way, then it doesn't really work that great. So again here, I'm gonna start this one a little bit to the right, get a nice little draw. I'm gonna feel like I swing just mildly more aggressive. Not hard, very, very smooth. I'm letting the club whip action, move the club head. I'm not gonna do it with a lot of muscular force. Let's try that out. So I know that ball is gonna turn over from right to left because I got the club to the inside. I let the momentum of it work that ball back over right to left. Again, 195-yard 6-iron, swinging really smooth. Man, I take that all day long. Now, there's one thing you have to do to make this happen. You'll notice that when I talked about those hands moving up and in, that only works if I'm close to the ground. So if I stand up out of my posture, I start getting the club steep, I'm getting farther away from the golf ball as I'm swinging down. Now, I can't pull my hands up and in because I'd miss the golf ball. So for example, let's say I have to release this club all the way to its longest distance from my body to be able to reach the golf ball. Well, if I was to swing up and in doing that, I'd just swing right over top of it. So what the pros are doing is they're staying in their posture. They're staying down, keeping in their posture. They're getting closer to the ground, and their hands are getting closer to the ground. So now when they swing up and in, they have tons of shaft lean, and the club can still hit the ball and make a nice clean divot. There's a video that I have, a drill that I have, that makes this really intuitive. I call it the Knuckle Dragger. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you're going to feel like your hands are scraping the ground, and that's going to put you in a position to where you're going to stay in your posture automatically. You're going to get shaft lean automatically. You're going to do a lot of really good things automatically once I walk you through what you should feel. Your hands should feel like they're a certain height in relationship to your legs. And once you start to feel that, it's like, okay, now it makes sense how I could pair all this together, how I could pull the club and get it to whip through there and still be able to reach the golf ball when I do that. So I'll play a preview of that video here in just 1 second. All you need to do is go ahead and click the card that pops up somewhere on your screen here. Don't worry if you don't see one of those cards. Just go down to the link in the description below and you'll get instant access to the Knuckle Dragger video there. It's going to be a real eye-opener, a real game changer for you. I can't wait to share with you some of the secrets of how to move your hands in relationship to your legs that's going to finally tie this together for you. Let's go and get started now. Got an awesome video for you. This one is what I call Knuckle Dragger. And this is one of the best ones, one of the big missing pieces to players that are struggling to get more lag. Now, let's talk about when you lose lag, what's happening. A lot of times what's happening is as you make your downswing, if we're looking from this down the line view, what happens is my hips go toward the golf ball, they start to slide forward. My chest moves back away from this golf ball, so I'm getting farther away from the golf ball, and then all of a sudden I cast, I flip, and I don't have a lot of lag there. Well, look how far my hands are away from the ground. Also notice when I get my hands closer to the ground, so as my hands get lower, then what happens is they also go forward more. So as I want to have more lag, when you feel like your knuckles are dragging the ground, then that club is naturally going to lag back behind, and then you're going to release that out in front. When your hands are far away from the ground, well, if I had all that lag, where would I be swinging? I'd be swinging a foot over top of the golf ball. So you have to kind of flip, release that lag early to just make contact with the golf ball at all. So having those knuckles feeling like they're scraping the ground is really going to be a big key. Now another piece to this, again, when I talked about losing that posture, your hips go forward. You're going to want to feel like, as those hands scrape the ground, your knuckles drag the ground.